Welcome to the Falcons Fanatic Podcast, your dirty birds every weekend. Welcome back to the Falcons Fanatic Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Lucky Roberts here, and I'm talking to you today after the Falcons beat the New York Jets 13-8 in what was one of the least entertaining games I've seen all year. But the Falcons win. I'm going to be happy about it, and we're taking down the Jets. We now move to 6-6, still leading the NFC South, and with the Saints' loss against the Lions today, the Falcons are now a game ahead, plus they have the tiebreaker beating the Saints and the tiebreaker in the division. So the Falcons looking very good for playoff contention here. First off, it was a horrible performance by this Falcons offense and the Jets offense. I don't think I've ever seen a worse quarterbacked game in my career. I mean, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, somehow worse than Desmond Ridder. The only thing propping up Desmond Ridder's stats here is that he had a touchdown. Everybody else who quarterbacked every other throw was very disappointing. Tim Boyle, 14 for 25. He had a pick. They didn't like what they were seeing. They switched it up. Trevor Siemian, after Tim Boyle threw the pick to my boy, Jesse Bates, they put in Trevor Siemian, see if he can do anything else. Instead, the sacks start flying. 3 sacks on Trevor Siemian, especially a bunch on those last couple drives there. Arnold Albacadi joining in the fun. And the Falcons held it together basically from the third on after a couple field goals in the third by both teams. It was punt, 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 punt. The Falcons had the lead, and they continued to dominate. The difference in this game, like I said earlier, was that touchdown throw by Desmond Ridder to Michael Pruitt, who had 1 reception in the game, and he was hyped about it. I've never seen anybody more excited, and he is going to get on the field very sparingly because the Falcons have so many very, very good tight ends. Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith, they're among the top receivers here. Only 2 wide receivers caught passes for the Falcons. Fun fact, it was Drake London, and that was it, actually. 2 wide receivers were targeted. Cordero Patterson in the slot for one of them, but only, he's more of a joker than a real wide receiver. But Kadero Hodge got targeted once. Drake London 5 times, only 1 catch. Wide receivers caught the football for the Atlanta Falcons 1 time in this game. No matter, 13-8, Falcons win either way. Falcons also had a safety early on in this game. They only score in the first quarter. So they were really fighting against, a uphill battle here. Kyle Pitts, 4 receptions, 51 yards. Bijan Robinson, 3 for 26. And like I said, Jonnu Smith, Michael Pruitt as well. It was, it was a field position battle from the get-go with this Atlanta Falcons team. Running one, Tyler Algier started out pretty well. Bijan Robinson started out very poorly. And so you're thinking, okay, maybe this is a Tyler game. He's coming in, maybe he's going to run the bulk of the carries here. No, he gets 8. Bijan gets about 18. Where you want to see both of these players, basically. But Bijan, for his efforts, only 53 yards. Tyler, 26. Cordero Patterson also got 5 carries. And he's been sort of a impact energy guy for this Falcons team as this season has progressed. Not really as central as he has been in the past couple of years. And this today, 2, just above 2 a carry, 2.1 basically. Disappointing stuff. A couple of times you thought they could have broken it. And this was, tipped to be a slugfest from the beginning. I mean, both these teams' offenses aren't the best. Both teams' defenses are among the top 10. And so you can assume that it was going to be a slugfest. Take that into consideration as well, that, coming into this game in New York and East Rutherford, it was a very, very rainy day. They don't play in East Rutherford anymore, but I still want to say that nonetheless. But it was a rainy day, and so you're thinking, you're seeing on Twitter all the time, Desmond Ridder, it's going to be a tough day for him. It's going to be a tough day for Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, who neither of them could hit, a player if they saw one, which I don't think they did because it's basically the lottery with them. They're throwing it up. It's going to go somewhere. Most of the time, it's going to go right to Jesse Bates. But it was a rainy day, and you can see that from the beginning of the first snap of the game. Desmond Ridder takes it. It's, a decent snap. I know we've had some problems snapping the football with Drew Dahlman, but it goes straight into Desmond Ridder's hands, and it's always going to be the conversation between the two. Oh, is it Desmond Ridder? Is it Drew Dahlman who's messing up the snaps? Well, either way, the ball was on the floor. Desmond Ridder jumps on it, but it pounces on it, but it's still worrisome and a bad way to start the game. And right after that, the Falcons punt it. Jets move it to about midfield. They punt it, and it was a great pin. I don't know exactly who on the Jets did it, but congrats to him. He sort of picked it up, flicked it back. It bounced right on the crescent of the ball and stays there on the 1-yard line. So the Falcons were backed up. It was a QB sneak, and then, interestingly enough, the Falcons decide to run a outside zone, as they love to do. I don't think they have any other running plays in their entire playbook. If they did, they would have ran it. Instead, they go with an outside zone to the left side of the offensive line, which is, I don't know if you know this, but the worst run blocking side. On that side, you have Bergeron and you have Matthews. On the right side, you have McGarry and Lindstrom, who are dominant run blockers. Instead, we run it to the left side of the offensive line, and who's right there waiting for them is Quentin Williams. Quincy Williams is right there. He blasts through whatever type of block Matthew Bergeron was trying to do, and he's been good as a rookie, and I think he'll be a long-time starter for the Falcons, but it was one of his worst plays, and Bijan tries his best. He slips the first one. Not much he can do. It's rallied around by the Jets. Falcons down 2-0, and that's the second main point where it was like, this is bad signs for the day. But it was bad signs all around for both teams all day. And it was punt off. Whoever can score a touchdown basically is going to win this football game. And, that's what did it. The Falcons with a couple more field goals, but even still, putting that into perspective, if we look at the team stats for both teams, Falcons once again getting outgained yards wise by the Jets, but another main difference here was the turnovers, and that was another thing I saw was, when it's a slippery game, there's going to be a lot of turnovers out there when it's a rainy day, and it did end up drying out by game time, but there was just that feeling in the air that it was going to be that type of back and forth game. But yeah, the Jets had 260 yards of offense. Falcons not even eclipsing 200. Either way, both of them less than 4 yards per play. It doesn't really make a difference. But it was those turnovers. Lots of fumbles. New York with 4 fumbles. Falcons only recovered 2 of them. And then they also had the Jesse Bates interception. But they came in pivotal points. And you saw, New York try to change it up, switch it to Trevor Siemian. And it didn't work out for them. It's interesting because they signed Siemian later on in the year after Aaron Rodgers go down, and you can see how badly they're missing Aaron Rodgers. And I'm a little skeptical from the get-go of how good Aaron Rodgers is going to be at the ripe old age of 40 that he is now, coming off an injury. Even at the beginning though, I was still, he's 39 coming into this season, and you can see, he got injured. But at least Aaron Rodgers is going to bring some fire. You just saw nothing from Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle. It's 4th and 17. It was 3rd and 17. And you're just seeing them run around like headless chickens. Desmond Ridder doing his best impression of that when the Falcons had the ball. But they don't command any respect, and they don't make good decisions. They don't put the ball into tight windows. You saw a couple of okay throws from Trevor Siemian. They moved about 40 yards. The Falcons pinned them in within their 7. But it's still really disappointing. And the run game for their part showed up with a zilch. 25 for 62, Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall. They had some fumbles with Dalvin Cook as well, and it's just, that's what lost them the game, and Falcons are going to capitalize off that. Falcons, had 3 fumbles of their own, but they were able to recover them all, which was the big saving grace here. Jesse Bates continues his onslaught, getting another interception, another turnover. He's now 5 interceptions, a couple of forced fumbles as well this season. He's going to be an all-pro. Continues to put on a stellar season I've seen, but from just about any safety. Bud Dupree was really good in this game. He had 2 sacks. I still continue to say he's the best pass rusher, but somebody who's leading the team in sacks and had another great one today was Arnold Ebiketie. And I've been not the staunchest Ebiketie supporter. He's supposed to be this pure pass rusher, and we knew that we were going to have to develop him over the years, but we're starting to see him beat some tackles here. Last week he had a nice little SWAT move almost. I don't even know what you call it. He beat him around with speed, got to the quarterback. And you got to Derek Carr, and this week, it's more of the same. It's a little swipe and I'm gone. Swipe and I'm gone. I hit the quarterback, and that's what set them up with the 4th and 17 to end the game, where the Falcons get another sort of strip sack, fumble throw. There was a lot of those in this game. It was a ton of those by the Jets. Trevor Siemian just sort of freaking out. I got to throw it somewhere. The Falcons, and that was one of the turning points, was the Jets on the second last possession for the Jets. Trevor Siemian had a play there. They were moving the ball. They were around their 40-yard line, 45. He winds up, and you can see D. Alford. It was Richie Grant. I apologize. Richie Grant. He's coming off blitzing from safety, and you can see him. He's free. He gets by the contain, the right tackle. He gets by him, and the running back's there to help support. But he slips through. I don't know how he does it. Slips through right as Siemian is winding up for the throw, and he gets there right in time, and it's hit, and instantly you think fumble. It's picked up by the Falcon that came in for Andre Smith, came in for the injured Nate Landman, who has played so well this season. I hope he gets back. Another injury for the Falcons was A.J. Terrell on the boundary, and you could see that was something that affected the Falcons, at least for a little bit. They moved to Clark Phillips, who held his own very well. He had a couple of huge tackles, only a 5'8" corner, but he plays much bigger. But you saw Jeff Okudah struggle, which is something we haven't really seen. He's been very solid for this Falcons team over the course of the year, but without A.J. Terrell locking down the other side, without locking down the star, he was the one forced to sort of mainly guard Garrett Wilson, who is a very, very good receiver. It's just too bad he doesn't have a quarterback to throw him the football, or else I think he could have been torched. I do think Jeff Okudah had the lookings of that, especially right after A.J. Terrell went down, but the Falcons and the Falcons defense, Okudah, Phillips III, they got their whips about them. They calmed down, and they pitched a shutout in that fourth quarter and a touchdownless game. 2 of these points of the 8 that the Jets had came from the offense. So only 2 field goals in a game. Really, really great performance by the Falcons. And they do play in East Rutherford, by the way. I don't know why I said that. Anyway. But Andre Smith also had a cut. He gets right in. Nate Landman gets sent out. Instantly attacked. But he bounces back, and he gets the recovery on that fumble. You don't see him throughout the rest of the game, the final drive, but that's a good thing. You don't hear his name called by the announcers, who I have my own opinions about Jonathan Vilma, but I will keep them to myself. Not the greatest game I've seen called, and definitely especially from a standpoint of being biased, but that's just here and there. Andre Smith, once again, it's fine. Only called once. He had the one mistake, but he was just coming in, not really warmed up, didn't think he would get in. It's understandable. It happened. Jesse Bates was right behind him to get the tackle, and Jesse Bates led the Falcons in tackles alongside Bud Dupree. 5 of Jesse Bates were solo. Bud Dupree had 3. Bud Dupree 2 TFLs, 2 sacks, Great performance from him. He and Calais Campbell are so good in the run game, stopping that run, setting those edges. And then you also see Bud Dupree rush the quarterback a little bit. And he's a lot more consistent than Arnold Ebiketie or any other pass rusher this Falcons team has. And I'm very happy, from the outside, edge rusher, I should say. Obviously, Onyemata and Jarrett, who is injured now. And Onyemata actually got a little knocked up in this game as well. Hopefully he's okay. But from what you saw, it was a good performance. And you see the Falcons starting to get banged up. And, these games are only going to continue to get thick and fast. Falcons play Tampa Bay, Carolina, Indianapolis, Chicago, and then New Orleans to finish it up. But I'm feeling pretty confident about this season. And I think the thing is, when this season's all said and done, Arthur Smith is still going to have his job if this Falcons team make the playoffs. And I will accept the fact that is going to happen. And as much as I would like to see a different head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, I understand he deserves another chance and he deserves to have a real QB. So we'll see. I don't know why he's tied to himself so frequently to these meh QBs. He really likes having a guy and sticking to him, and I don't really get it. How different would this season have been if the Falcons had gotten Lamar Jackson? Who knows? This Falcons team probably would be about 10 wins. They probably would have clinched a playoff spot by now. Anywho, you see a bunch of the other corners. D. Alford continues to play great. Nate Landman, I thought before he got injured, was impressive. DeMarco Hellams continues to get snaps there. It's he and Richie Grant are getting rotated a lot. DeMarco Hellams, who was stellar in the preseason. I say stellar a lot. Contribute Street getting 2 TFLs as he's, the Falcons swung a trade for him, giving up a 6th or a 7th or whatever late round draft choice to get him because Grady Jarrett's injured. And now if Onyemata is going to be out for a length of time, he's really going to be the inside rush, the inside guy for the Falcons. And he had 2 TFLs for his troubles, and he was fine. And TQ, Taquan Graham, is going to be the guy beside him. But it was a really great game for this Falcons defense. Every single time they were called upon, they were asked to do something, they answered, and it was becoming a comical amount of times that they were called to be able to stop it. It was sort of like that FSU Louisville game we saw last night, where it was just defense back and forth. But one team just could move the ball. One team was better, and the Falcons were them. And just like FSU, who got screwed, by the way, in the college football rankings there, they end up. We'll see how the Falcons go. It's their second away win. Desmond Ridder with his first ever USA soil away touchdown. And I know it's a very wordy stat because that's what stats are nowadays, and it's what they're going to be as time continues to move. But it was a poor offensive showing, one of the worst I've seen from both sides, both teams. Falcons rushing attack, okay, decent. Falcons passing attack, putrid. New York passing attack, putrid with a capital P. New York rushing attack, disgusting. And so, you see some decent yard stats here, a couple of chunk plays by the Jets, but they were constantly at midfield and constantly tripping over themselves at midfield. And we continue to see that Desmond Ridder is not the answer. He was leading. He had one in the end zone to end the second quarter where he just led Drake London into a concussion. The Jets did get flagged on it, but you can't do that to your guys, man. You cannot do that to your guys. And he did the same thing to Bijan. It was, I think, either to start the fourth or to end the third. But he throws it. It's third down. There's nothing there, so he's like, okay, I'll dump it down. But there's a guy in the flat. Bijan Robinson sort of just swinging outside. He's going to be a check down. Desmond Ridder leads him, but he leads him right to the guy in the flat. And so Bijan gets a face full of this defender and gets walloped. And I'm like, why are you doing this to your guys? And he continues, and it's something that's been an issue for him. Like, since last year, since he started playing, he leads his receivers into monster hits. And it always seems to be Drake London who gets the brunt of it, who gets the worst of it. And props to him for being that tough and sticking through it and continuing to fight for these balls. But man, I wouldn't, if that was me, I would not be trusting my guy. And I'm surprised that there hasn't been sort of a waiver in trust. But nonetheless, the Falcons win this game. Young Wei Koo continues to have a great kicking season. He was 2 for 2 today, made his extra point in what was, supposedly, I'm sure the ground was damp, a rainy game and tough conditions to hit some field goals. He goes out there, trots out, straight down the middle, ball flipping over its own end. Perfect textbook stuff. He's really good. And I'm glad he's going to be a Falcon for years to come. But as we look forward for this Falcons team, they play Tampa at home next week. And if the Falcons can lock that one up against Tampa Bay, they're going to be boosting their record against their away opponents to 4-0. I mean, their division opponents to 4-0. And the Falcons are going to be looking like real shoo-ins to win this division. Obviously, the Bucs playing the Panthers today. The Bucs should be able to win that. As I'm watching right now, it's 7-3 for the Buccaneers. But who knows? Maybe the Panthers steal one. But if the Buccaneers win that one and then they come into Atlanta and steal the one against the Falcons, all of a sudden we're back to where we started, and it's anybody's division. But the Falcons still have a pretty good, that 3-0 in the division is really important. And it's always the Falcons on the other opposite end of that record. So it's good to see them take care of the bad teams in their division. But, all around, it wasn't the most fun game. It wasn't the most exhilarating game. Basically, all the fun, all the jumping around, all the excitement I got from this game, other than all the turnovers and such. But it was Michael Pruitt's touchdown from the offense. You didn't really need to watch anything else offensively. It was disappointing from both ends of the football. But the Falcons win. A win's a win. We're going to take that no matter what. I don't care who the coach is. I don't care who the quarterback is. I'll take a win. I'll beat the Jets. I bet any offense can put up 13 points against the Jets, because it was just tough. The Jets' offense is so bad. It's just really bad. And I don't know if it'll get any better. But either way, we look forward to next week's matchup against the Buccaneers. And before I leave you guys, I'm just going to take a look at some of the other scores at the 1 p.m. time window. And I'll wrap it up. But very happy so far. And I'll see you guys in a sec. All right, and I am back, and I'm here to talk about some of the other games. And, firstly, one of the games that was the most similar to the Falcons won today, it was the Chargers and Patriots. And, when you see the Chargers, when you think Chargers, you think high-flying offense, they're going to choke, and, it's going to be a high-flying game, and it's going to be high-scoring. And the Chargers did win this game, and they didn't choke. They're playing the Patriots, so you think, okay, maybe it wasn't too hard. Maybe it wasn't such a close game. It was within 6 points. It was within a score. The thing is, the Patriots didn't score a point. And the Chargers only had one touchdown in this game, and they didn't get the extra point. It was 6-0 for the Chargers. I guess they'll take the win. They moved to 5-7, but I don't think the offensive masterminds there in New England have really got anything going on. I think they've got, Caleb Williams highlights to watch. I think that's what their assignment was this week, instead of drawing up a game plan. And the Chargers, for their part, do absolutely nothing. Patriots move to 2-10, and they continue their hunt for the first overall pick. A great game, one of the best games I've seen on the flip side of these poor matches we've seen. I've been talking about the Lions and Saints. What a game that was! Lions demolished the Saints. Saints weren't in this game at all. Lions take it 33-28. Absolutely destructive game. Lions, throwing a bone to the Saints fans there. You guys can score some points. Do what you want to do. We're gonna win this game 9-3, and that's what sort of the just some great charity work there from the Lions from Detroit, and you love to see it, especially because the Saints need it, and Falcons. It helps out the Falcons in the division rankings for sure. The Colts and Titans. Colts with a game-winning overtime win over the Titans. The Colts are now 7-5. Titans 4-8. That basically signs the death seal on their season. The Colts continue to fight for a wild card spot in the AFC South. It was some great huge plays by Pierce and really helped out my fantasy team having those guys. Another game that they kept cutting to throughout, the Dolphins-Commanders game. Dolphins put up 45. Makes sense. Tyreek Hill once again with a plethora, multiple touchdown game, multiple 40-yard, 50-yard plus touchdowns. They're unstoppable, and I'm very happy the Falcons are on the other side of the NFL landscape, being in the NFC. I mean, this Dolphins team can score with the best of them. And, you say, they lose all to all the good teams, all the good defenses. But either way, man, just watching this team pick out throw after throw, Tua hitting, Jalen Waddle, hitting Tyreek Hill once again, it's something you love to see and something that, you hope to continue to watch for years to come. And they're going to be cutting to it in the highlights for years to come. And the final game this weekend in the 1 p.m. window was Texans-Broncos. Another battle for the AFC wildcard. The Texans come out ahead. C.J. Stroud continues to impress, looking like he's going to be the Rookie of the Year this season as Bijan sort of slowed down, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bijan Robinson sort of slowed down his production, especially today. Looking a lot more human, and the Texans and C.J. Stroud looking a little more alien as they move to 7-5 after swinging such a huge trade in the draft just a season ago. And a lot of people were saying, well, you got Will Anderson, sure, you got C.J. Stroud, your QB of the future, sure, but is this team really ready to contend as they gave away next year's first? And it seems like they bet on themselves and they were correct, as the Texans are now 7-5, like I said, and in that wild card picture, in the wild card spot. And they take down the Broncos, who have been on a heater recently. They put up 17 points. They're still in it. They're 6-6, right where the Falcons are actually. But the Broncos, they still have a chance. But it was a tough loss, and will be a really important one when it comes to seeding and fighting and trying to take position in those playoffs. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Another great win for the Falcons, back-to-back weeks. Hopefully we'll be able to continue it in Atlanta against the Buccaneers next week, but we'll have to see. We'll have to cross that bridge when it comes here, but I'm taking the win. I'm taking the excitement, taking the happiness, not really going to think much about the game. Otherwise, 13-8, Falcons win. I'll see you guys next week with hopefully another one as the Falcons continue to lead this division. So anyways, thanks for listening. I've been Lucky Roberts. Do what you want. Follow me on Twitter. I'm going to continue to say that, even though I don't link my Twitter in the description. But either way, thanks for listening. I'll see you guys later.